One thing about the gaming conversation is we have so much history that we can pull from that when you actually see some people talk about Xbox and their business model, you have to wonder if they're actually, looking at things from a similar perspective. Nib95 put a big post out here about Xbox cannibalizing games. Now, he said it's not ridiculous. That's based on some kind of a conversation about people saying it's ridiculous to think that Xbox Game Pass cannibalizes sales. It says Xbox themselves admitted and the data confirms the severe impacts of it. Now, look at the way this comment is actually stated. The severe impact. That would connotate a negative impact on those games that make their way to Game Pass. Even though lately we've seen two developers, the developers of Clear Obscure Expedition 33 and a developer from Power World, say that they had a great time. And then they said, for example, Call of Duty. This is the example that Nib is using. Black Ops 6 sales were down negative 67% in the UK, post Game Pass inclusion, but then 30% on PS5. Xbox accounted for just 10% of its sales. Likewise, a whopping 82% of its sales were on PlayStation in the US, up from 50% the year before. I think where PC gamers are confused, and this is where he gets it absolutely wrong, because again, whenever these guys try to go into PC gaming, they're walking in the dark. Is not realizing that there's far less cannibalization on PC, as Game Pass is simply orders of magnitude less popular on PC than consoles. Then he said, in a leaked FTC whatever, it meant that only about 3 million Game Pass users were on PC, and then says, while on PC it's seen more growth, Game Pass on console in recent years, it's likely to be anywhere close to Game Pass console numbers, hence there's less cannibalization on PC specifically, which is not true. Because if you want to talk about cannibalization on PC, let me go ahead and just debunk this claim. Piracy is the biggest cannibalizer of sales, and it's very possible on PC. So, Mr. Nib95, why have you not cited that as a possibility? Why would somebody go ahead and try to get Game Pass when they have the option of Steam or sailing the high seas? If you talk about cannibalization, that is the OG cannibalization. In fact, cannibalization on PC is so intense that they cannibalized the PlayStation game before it came to PC. Marvel Spider-Man 2, when it leaked. What are you talking about? People already beat the game on PC once the leak came out. So this whole missive about, PC, you are ignoring and abandoning customer and consumer behavior. Because you said this, the more Game Pass PC grows, the more cannibalization there will be. Bro, PC people that sail the high seas don't need Game Pass to cannibalize sales. Sales already get cannibalized on PC. This is why Rockstar has to tread carefully with their game. Even as big as it is, there are many people that are not interested in giving them any money. Again, that's why I said when these people walk into the PC realm, they walk in the blind. This person said on a final point, this is Nib, I had Game Pass since 2017. Bruh, this dude has been on Game Pass. I told y'all, I said the people that are always detracting from Game Pass, most of them, they've got Game Pass subscriptions. And not just they've subscribed to it once, they have active subscriptions. And enjoy the service. And they enjoy it too. Like we've been seeing on the PlayStation subreddit where people are talking about how, oh my gosh, the difference in quality. But obviously, we all want games we love to sell well or be successful. So more games like them get made. Homie, Game Pass makes that a almost surety. And I'll show you all in this video. You said there's fear from some among certain enthusiasts of gaming that Game Pass could impact that with the said cannibalization and lack of overall revenue growth. That's not true. And at least with certain types of titles, hence, it's not pro-corpo, but pro-long-term interest in quality future games. Some are interested in the broader business aspect of gaming, whereas some consume without thought or knowledge of anything further, find to be in either camp. All right, Mr. Nib, you always like to do that. It's not gentlemanly to put yourself intellectually above other people. That's not how things are done, because if you go out with that kind of hubris, you always miss something. Now, Nib95, answer this. When Xbox pays developers, and this is an article, Eddie Makuch, November 24, 2020, cited from an original article, November 24, 2020, from The Verge about Phil Spencer talking about Xbox in the future, and Eddie Makuch summarizes how developers get paid by Game Pass. So if a developer comes to Xbox and gets X dollars right now, like he said here, hey, we're willing to put this in Game Pass on launch day if you guys will give us X dollars. What we can do is we'll create a floor for them in terms of their success of their game. They know they're going to get that return. So if a developer goes to Xbox and they take maybe an $80 million game to Xbox and say, give us 50% of the cost of development, and we'll put it on Game Pass, and we have all the upside of the sales. What Xbox has done is Xbox has reduced their financial burden to break even. So let's say they were going to sell their game for $50, NIB95, I hope you're paying attention. They need to sell 1.6 million copies to at least achieve break even, not even talking about extenuating fees, such as what they're going to pay to the platform holders wherever they sell the games. But let's just negate those fees, right? Let's just say that those fees are probably going to basically be expensed in the income taxes, and they're going to get a little bit of a break for it. So Xbox has basically gone ahead to reduce their burden by 50% for break even. It is now a guarantee for them that instead of needing to sell 1.6 million units, that all they need to sell is 800,000 units. And honestly, if they were already thinking, man, the most we can sell is about 1 million units, they are now at an advantage because they've been given a head start of 800 copies already sold by Xbox. So this conversation of talking about the whole cannibalization of sales and something to do with we want more games to be made, Xbox is making that happen with the way it's structuring these deals to suit the developers. Because according to Phil Spencer, it's based on the developer's need. So again, like I've said, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of the conversations are not putting in this reality here. This is why a lot of those that are analysts are making big mistakes. And that's not even the highlight of the video. I'm sure you're probably thinking, so where are we going with this, VG? Well, we're going to MLB The Show, a game that benefited from Game Pass. I've been talking about this game for a long time. And a lot of the PlayStation fans, getting closer, turn your volume up. A lot of Xbox gamers and a lot of PlayStation gamers have not necessarily considered the ramifications of this game having been on Game Pass for a number of years. For multiple iterations, that is. You see, this game, I think, was in financial dire straits. I think it was. I think the game needed more money. It is the only game that San Diego Studios makes. They needed to make more money somewhere, somehow. So MLB or PlayStation or whoever went in with the mindset that they needed more money. And guess what they did? They launched the game on Game Pass. And when the game launched on Game Pass, it broke all of its sales metrics. Did you guys know that? As many people would have said cannibalization of sales, it actually did the opposite. This was so weird that even investors at the time went ahead and celebrated it on Berkshire Hathaway's publication at the time. I'll show you. But before we even go there, can you imagine how that deal would have gone along? Can you imagine MLB or PlayStation, whoever it was, going in and saying, hey, let's make a deal. Let's see how we can actually get some money for this game. And Xbox saying, what do you need? Well, we need development cost. Did they pay 50% development cost? Did they pay 20% development cost? Did they give a fee? You know that fee made its way into the coffers of PlayStation San Diego Studios, right? Do you know that money that PlayStation fans mock all the time that came from Xbox actually went in to propping a PlayStation studio, San Diego studio, to be able to continue to make this game? Do y'all see that? San Diego Studios today is still making a game that is called MLB The Show. Even though the game is no longer on Game Pass, for the years that it was on Game Pass, it was able to not only make money, it was able to get money up front and get more sales by putting itself out there and being basically an ad platform on Game Pass. And now they feel confident enough that the game can actually soar on its own. But let's not be fooled. At the time that this game showed up, MLB The Show 2021 was the first game that went to Xbox at the time. This is Berkshire Hathaway's Business Wire publication that they put out there. They talked about PlayStation 5 surpassing 10 million units sold, remaining the fastest selling console in Sony Interactive Entertainment's history. In there, they mentioned that Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold 6.5 million units as of the time of the publication, which is July 28, 2021. They also talked about MLB The Show from San Diego Studios, which is the fastest selling title in franchise history with more than 2 million copies, and they put an asterisk, sold across all platforms. Also, the game had reached more than 4 million players since releasing in April 16th of 2021. At this point, they were publishing this. This was July 2028. This was in 3 months. The game had broken all records by being on Xbox. There was also a Game Pass bag that wasn't spoken about in this publication. That Game Pass bag is where I think the smoking gun is. Nib95, you've made it seem like Xbox Game Pass is this thing with severe impact on games, while PlayStation themselves have benefited from it. I hope you're paying attention to what the market is doing. A lot of us gamers, when we're talking, we're not looking at the business side. This is why, for the most part, we find ourselves where we are. If we are paying attention to the business side, we'll realize that everybody is trying to get a bag out here. It doesn't matter where the bag is from. Anybody that's pretending that, oh, our ecosystem can do it with exclusivity is basically playing a game of perception. That's what they're doing. When we look at the asterisk that was put here for MLB The Show in terms of copies sold, it said pretty much as of, what was the first asterisk? As of July 18th, 2021. Hence, that game would probably have sold much more overall. Not only with its sales of 2 million units, it also got a Game Pass bag. So, if MLB The Show needed, say, 2 million units to break even, and by 3 months, they had already sold 3 million units, any money that they got from Game Pass was icing on the cake. That money also went into San Diego studios to prop up that studio and give them a fighting chance for at least another few iterations of MLB The Show. This is where I think all those people that have been sitting there telling me MLB The Show was published by Xbox and all of this stuff, you have been clearly deluded by people who don't care about telling you the truth. We're seeing it right here. I don't have to do anything. All you can do is go ahead and research it for yourself, and it's publicly available information that has been missed while people run around and talk about how, oh, Game Pass is bad for the industry. I'm not even saying Game Pass is perfect because it's a trap at the end of the day. If they spike up the price, you're going to be left with a bunch of save files on there. If you don't want to pay that amount of money, don't get me wrong, there's a downside. However, according to a PlayStation fanboy in the PlayStation Plus subreddit, they said, we better enjoy it while we can. And to be honest about this, it's very interesting, right? Very interesting. If you think about it, I think what's not been said is the most important piece of this whole talk about cannibalization of sales. Mr. Nib95, I don't know why you like to be condescending. You could have just simply stated your case and walked away. But now you had to basically say some are okay consuming without thought or knowledge. Why would you do this? Pretending like you considered your points with those elements, when in reality, there's much lacking in the whole conversation that you've brought up. Christopher Dring, also yesterday or 2 days ago, went ahead and concluded that Game Pass is neither good nor bad. It just is. When even PlayStation themselves, an entire studio, an entire franchise that they make, had profited from it at a point in time. Comment section. Peace out.